Okay. Exterior economics class, morning. A wide expanse of glass, a pane lacking any window frame, gives way to smoldering dark rays as the sound of burning makes its existence faintly audible. Interior economics class, late morning. The squeaks of a marker briefly pause between each marking of a word. Capitalism. He verbalizes the definition written along the whiteboard. The magic of America. A yellow highlight pulses along its surface. His enthusiasm takes on an air of playful aggression. Some might say otherwise, but let's be honest with ourselves. A set of hanging fluorescent lights masks the brightness and worth of an open flame. Strokes of ash char the tiled roof above. He laughs while speaking. Their opinions won't sway the court. The incessant, buzzing hum of one flickering lamp outweighs the reverberating, muffled bass of music. Rows of people idle in their desks, with those sitting in the room's corners grouped together in crooked patterns. Raise your hands if you think the effects of the free market are more positive than negative. The students confine themselves in the distractions of phones, handheld consoles, and one another, speaking at an inaudible volume. Allah raises her hand, prompting the end of a marker to be pointed in her direction. God bless. Exterior physics class, late morning. A burst of chuckling exchanges between the largest group of desks, stifling the popping of combustion. At the end of the semester? From the partially masked, squinting expressions to the vague, uneasy aura of an orange and black mass, the outline of a human being on fire gains sharp delineation. A turned head hovers directly beside her sitting figure. Like, what the hell is his problem, right? The teacher clears his throat. So, Ella looks down, with the quality of her pastel cutesy style and fashion taking as much presence in the room as the streaks of fire emanating from her body, a terrifying, beautiful pyre of overexposed colors. Does anyone want to tell me? They gesture their free arm, pointing at various individuals without calling on them. No shoddy actually does it, though. While the teacher looks away to the other side of the room, a brief middle finger sends out in a flick, another student audibly giggles. What happens after? With her head suspended in the air, Ella stares into her palms. The shadow of her teacher's arm glides across the plastic surface they rest against. Ella's hand raised as far as her arm can extend. After the molecule forms, she turns behind her. Her gaze wanders the faces of her classmates, which each beat of her heart, her flame pulses. It's in your notes. Ella lowers her hand for a moment and clicks a pair of buttons on the watch wrapped around her wrist. The teacher crosses his arms and looks to his side, one of the corner of his mouth twist. Go ahead. She turns back and faces him. The atoms spawn through electronic donation and the joining of the nucleus, mass disappears, becoming energy. He smiles. Thank you, Eleanor. Interior, locker room, late morning. A dark brown foot inches away from a puddle of water along the floor beside a set of blue lockers. Ella stands alone. She holds her uniform in her hands while donning on a white bra. Exterior PE field, late morning. The harsh burnt reds of a running track give way to overgrown weeds, blooming amongst the few remaining yellows of dying grass. A chain-link fence, twice the height of Ella's stature, towers over the perimeter of the field. People walk around the running track in cliques, while the occasional student jogs out of the bounds of white paint to continue around them. She sits against the dirt patches. Her arms and legs pose around her hips in an attempt to obscure their exposure from a loose pair of shorts. She looks up between the folds of her limbs to the sight of a partial silhouette squatting in front of her. M waves and gestures both of her hands together to form a heart. She lifts her hands up briefly to mimic the gesture with her index and middle finger. They giggle, then sit next to her in the same pose, prompting her to smile and look away. The two of them bury their faces in their knees and forearms. Exterior, PE field, noon. Ella remains in the same position, wearing the previous dress again. M eats from 3 trays of lunch beside her, leaning against her side. A crooked plastic spork with its contents of mashed potatoes partially falling as it lifts to their mouth, bends further upon M biting onto the utensil. They chew for a moment, swallow, and upon sliding the spork out of their mouth, smiles at the sight of its jagged form. They stand up, stretching their arms past the height of their head, then sit back down, crossing their legs, then reach for their backpack. Upon unzipping its main pouch, several dozens of other crooked sporks scatter across between the gaps of notebooks. They drop the utensil, then open another pouch containing a bottle of hand sanitizer. Its contents briefly squeeze out and fall onto the bag, and upon closing both zippers, Ella perks at the sound of plastic and paper shaking. She sets her legs down, crossing them in the same orientation as M's, remarking, "You're such a goofball." M looks over, tilting their head, then with her free hand, rubbing their chin with her thumb. Gasp! Ella exhales while closing her eyes. She opens them to the sight of a hand reaching for her face. "Your mouth! It's... She leans in towards their direction and playfully bites the tip of their finger. "Egad!" M smiles. She shares the expression with a finger in between each set of teeth. Exterior, biology class, early afternoon. Rows upon rows of cars park along the courtyard of asphalt. A segment of grass separates the parking lot from a ramp of concrete leading to a closed door. Interior, biology class, early afternoon. Ella sits near the front next to another student whose desk is attached directly to hers. A taller figure passes out a multitude of paper sheets to her partner, who hands one to Ella and passes the rest back to the students behind the two of them. She writes her full name to the top of the worksheet. Upon writing the letter N of Eleanor, the tip snaps off. She clicks the end of the mechanical pencil only for its remaining piece of graphite to fall onto the desk. She watches it roll down the paper, losing its inertia to friction and eventually stopping to a point of rest. Her eyes shift and widen at the sight of the other piece. It hovers between the gaps of the letter L and A with a vertical length. "Do you need some lead?" A plastic container slides over to the edge of their desk, pushed by a pair of fingers. Ella looks over with a brief tear appearing in the corner of their eye. She quickly wipes it after a moment of pausing, then reaches for her watch to reset its timer while remarking, "I have my own. I appreciate the offer." Faith pulls back her hand as another shuffles through the pouches of a backpack. A flame sparks upon Ella registering the sight of an empty container. She sits upright, facing forwards, and remains there, visibly paralyzed, barely breathing. As a fire begins to spread to the paper, its bottom half burns with an intensity matched by her stare at the lead. The paper burns in its entirety, its ashes flowing to the current of the room's air conditioning. The timer exceeds 13 minutes as Ella remains motionless, continuing to stare. A hand reaches for Ella's. Her grip untightens, letting a set of fingers wrap around her own. Her gaze settles on another. Faith smiles with a warm amicability. "Take what you need, leave what you can." A pair of left hands with different skin tones fill a mechanical pencil with sticks of graphite. Exterior, English class, afternoon. The branchlets of a leafless tree tower over a building, with clouds overhead speckling the sky in patternless arrangements. Interior, English class, afternoon. The same mechanical pencil scratches a pair of vertical lines, then a third, followed by a numerical symbol, denoting 3. A fourth appears, followed by the number 7. No, you did. M continues to write prime numbers in ascending order in the margins of their line-shaped paper. "You 100% did." Ella types at a small laptop, swiping its touchpad with her thumb on occasion to correct the typo. Students around the two of them angle their laptops with its back facing the teacher. The fire surrounding Ella's figure barely ignites as a pair of legs intertwine with one another, swaying back and forth. Ella lightly taps against M's foot, prompting them to look up to the sight of highlighted text along a multi-paragraph essay. "The saying he giveth, he taketh away, originates from what did he 100% do?" Ella's head continues to face her computer, while her gaze looks over to her handwritten response. "Your mom." They both giggle to themselves. M leans against Ella's shoulder, writing the number 23 significantly larger than the rest. Exterior, art class, late afternoon. A plastic tarp hangs over a wall and floor next to the visible interior. A student works on a canvas larger than their body. Interior, art class, late afternoon. Faith holds the same mechanical pencil, its saturated signs of its rubber handle complement the pink hue of her fingertips. Her gaze shifts between the spot along M's face and a graphite portrait of them. She erases the mid-tone gray value along their chin, denoting a source of reflected light. Ella doodles beside the two of them, hovering over a blank sheet of printer paper. She shifts her attention to a piece of Bristol paper. With great hesitance, the bristles of a thin, round brush meet its surface, gently swiping the hue of a teal drop of acrylic along its rounded edges of various sketches of hearts, emitting from an ink drawing of a cartoon fish. M leans to their side, lowering their arm to the height of their backpack. Upon grabbing their empty water bottle with a force that causes them to lightly jolt, they turn behind them and raise their hand. A moment passes in idleness, prompting Faith to mimic the gesture, smiling. A slight tap against Ella's foot beneath the desk prompts Ella to raise her hand without looking up, smiling as well. Another moment passes. M stands and walks over to the other side of the room, bowing upon a pair of eyes lifting to meet their own. "Why, hello, M. How are you feeling this fine afternoon?" M raises her head and salutes, their teeth show. "As good as one can be." They bow again, extending their arm out with their hand clenched. "May Faith, Ella, and I be excused to retrieve some water?" The teacher smiles, bumping his fist against their own, then gesturing with an open palm at Ella and Faith with raised eyebrows. "And may I see all of your progress when you return?" She nods, clicking the sides of her watch to set a timer. Its value of 5 minutes descends upon Faith standing up. Interior, school hallway, late afternoon. Concrete gives way to plaster walls. The grain of their surface catches the highlights of the sun, then the shadows of people walking past. The trio holds hands. M walks in the center of them with their eyes closed. Faith wears a hall pass beneath her cross as they all approach a water fountain. Ella looks through a mural to their side. She ceases to move for a moment, staring at the sight of a painted flag, with its red and white stripes curving. M tugs at Ella, prompting her to continue walking with a hum, while staring at the 13 white stars superimposed over a blue square. Upon standing in front of the water fountain, Ella slides her hair back as she leans down. Water flows from its bubbler. Gasp! Ella looks to her side again while continuing to lean forward, only for Faith to block the flow of water with her hand. "The water! It's... M points dramatically to a glowing red dot of light. "Unfiltered!" Ella pulls back and stances with caution, her feet split apart, farther than the width of her shoulders. She looks briefly at her watch, denoting the remaining time as 3 minutes and 6 seconds. "We're out of time. At this rate, she'll..." All three of them don military outfits, with various models of guns secured around Ella's suits, while M carries Faith on her back. "Try not to worry." They smile, their teeth show. "Everything is possible for one who believes." The cool, exaggerated shadows of window frames cast a grid-like pattern along lockers. "I'll survey the area. You protect Faith, okay?" An affirming hum blends into partial silence, combating the volume of leaking water. In a burst of movement, the water fountain explodes as scorching steam fills the surrounding area. Ella covers her eyes with her arms, nearly blown away by the pressure. Her flame extinguishes for a moment, only to return moments later with greater strength. "M!" The squeaks of boots running against concrete grows in volume. "I'm here." Ella flies by the mural. She sprints across the interior, nearly falling as she turns the corner. The waves of her pyre sway to the current of the air as she yells while continuing to run. "This is bad." Her watch denotes 2 minutes and 23 seconds, ticking further as she continues to speak. "This is really, really bad." M catches up to her. The two of them reach for one another and hold hands. "Just keep believing." She smiles through intense anxiety. They share their expression with visible delight, squinting. Her smile fades as her eyebrows raise with fear. The windows around them scatter as fluorescent lights flicker. The palpable weight of another being's presence itself known through the manifestation of a pitch-black silhouette. The nebulous form of a figure stagnates in and out of existence. M turns to face the creature and holsters a concealed handgun. Ella shuts her eyes at each pull of the trigger, beginning to scream. "No, no, 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 please!" She starts crying suddenly and points at herself. I don't want to forget you. I need you. I love you. The flame around her burns with greater luminosity, taking on bright pinks and magentas. Faith's corpse prompts a pool of blood to soak into the fabric of her clothes, massing around M's feet as well. They continue to shoot in a different direction of the entity. Waves of cyans and blues envelop the two of them. M drops to the ground as Ella bleeds from her ears. They try to stand up again, only to wobble in place, unable to hold the handgun still. Ella screams hysterically as tears pour down her cheeks. She frantically looks around her, turning her head back and forth. Her gaze fails to settle on a singular point. The silhouette appears as an etching in three-dimensional space. The figure absorbs any of the bullets and manages to accurately fire in its direction. They look behind them, frowning. They stumble to their side and lean against the wall. Blood smears along its surface as they kneel onto the floor. It'll be okay, I promise. She remains unresponsive, staring back without acknowledgement. She looks towards the floor, grasping at her ears, then patting her head. The embers of her flame crack with the palpability of her emotion. M turns back and lifts her arms in front of them, only for the creature to do the same. They gasp. A visible shockwave causes them to twist in the air and land on their side, tumbling down the hallway. They land and slide against the ground. Their back hits the wall. Ella, after looking back momentarily, turns forward to face a seemingly endless expanse of bright, blinding lights. M gets up while holding their stomach, leaning their weight against one leg. She takes a step backward, then another, running in M's direction. She holds one of their arms against her shoulder and frowns again. They try to detach themselves from Ella's grasp, only to wince. Their eyebrows curl with pain. M looks down to see the absence of their foot and a stream of blood flowing from its open wound. The world goes dark, with the light overhead succumbing to pitch black, as Ella's flame serving as the only source of brightness, flashing. Exterior, intersection, overcast. Snow descends from the ceiling in white puffs, floating to the current of wind. Ella's eyes widen, she whimpers, translucent smoke eddies in the air. Her flame shrinks, her posture curls at the sight of another person, a coated figure walking towards their position. Her hair stretches past her shoulders, the pink tips of her ears match the hue of her flushed cheeks. Ella takes a step back, the figure's tan coat, stretching from her neck to her feet, contrasts the colorful roses held between her arm and torso. She shakes her head, tears continuing to streak down her face, and her breathing breath shows through the cold air. M puts her foot down and stands. What's wrong? She hyperventilates, barely saying, Let's get out of here. The moment she starts walking, the figure waves. Her mouth freezes in place. They shake her. She remains unresponsive. Ella? Ella! M frowns, then tries to stand in front of Ella, putting their hands back as they can extend to their sides. Please go away! She doesn't want to talk to you! The figure walks through M as if they are non-existent. M looks back, their eyebrows curling with bewilderment. Huh? The figure stands in front of Ella, holding out the flowers. She stares at them, sobbing silently, with her flame extinguished entirely. M turns around and panics, waving their hands around with their knees bent. Snow continues to fall, accumulating to white, tiny dots along both of their hair. Ella begins to whisper something inaudible. A desperation rings in her tone as her volume increases. She shakes her head back and forth, her eyes widen, a hand extends forward in a gesture waiting to be reciprocated. Ella extends out her hand, and upon physical contact the world falls to darkness again. The matter around her loses its form, dragged in an instant to a singular point. Interior, Ella's bathroom, no sense of time. She finds herself laying on the tiled floor, a mixture of blood and water soaks between the cracks. Her flame spreads throughout the whole bathroom, burning every wall except for the figure towering in front of her. The figure stands motionlessly as a silhouette amongst a rainbow of colors. Cyans, magentas, and yellows blend together in a beautiful display of hues. She screams. M shakes her with all the force they can muster. They sob, Please don't die! Please don't die! Ella screams again. Interior, art class, late afternoon. M, Faith, and Ella return through the front door, still holding hands. Faith gently takes off her hall pass, handing it to the teacher with an expression of gratitude. Thank you. The teacher walks to his desk, placing the pass in the top shelf of the cabinet. The three of them gather around their own desk, standing as he approaches. M raises their hand, followed by an enthusiastic request volunteer once he points at them. Can you see mine first? The teacher gestures a thumbs up, placing his hands on his hips as M pulls out a canvas from their backpack. The height of the painting nearly extends past their stature and the width of both of their arms. This is literally me. Strokes of acrylic delineate the vague, dark form of a figure with wings and a halo being shaken down by light. Wow, I really love the style. It's very ethereal. Can you tell me more? M salutes with one hand, only for the painting to lose its balance, prompting the teacher to reach for its side to hold it up, catching it nearly as it hits the ground. Ella chuckles to herself as MB starts speaking. I am the border of the universe, ever expanding, only grounded to reality by Allah, the center of the universe, ever shrinking, and I'm only connected to her through faith, the space between the center and the border of the universe, ever still. The teacher nods while smiling, looking over to the two of them, matched by his audible glee. So, he reaches for his chin, his lips split with playful hesitance. Where is my place in the R? A laugh from his end coincides with a clap from M, along with a determined stare. Your universe. M gasps, then places the painting along the table. Faith leans forward to grab its other end. The distance between the table and the wooden framing closes as M steps forward and examines various parts of his stature. The widened eyes of a teenager stare upwards, with their arms and fingers spread apart. You are an important descendant of our common ancestor. They gesture towards Ella's drawing, briefly whispering, Can I hold this up? Ella nods. In an instant, they lean over with their hands, leading their movement, gently grasping the paper by its edges and back. Permission to read Ella's mind and speak on her behalf? She giggles, wiping her nose with the back of her fingers. Granted. Ella closes her eyes as Faith continues to draw. Emma inhales and closes her eyes, adopting her mannerisms with the scratching of her cheek. As Ella mouths the words, Em speaks them out loud. So they always talk about fish, right? It's really charming. The two of them reach for their necks, then the space behind the ear. Anyway, they both laugh in unison. Em really likes the concept of evolution, so they study a lot in our science class. Em spins in a twirl and smiles widely, independently of Ella. I'm quite infatuated with that class. They clear their throat, followed by Ella nodding, then continuing to speak silently. I know that when Em says something is important, they mean it. They really, really mean it. So as a sign of affection, they consider you to be biologically related to their favorite animal. Ella raises her hand, prompting Em to open her eyes. You silly goober! Ella looks to the side, then the other, pointing at herself and accentuating the tone of her voice. Me? Em puts down the painting and points at Ella, menacingly. You! A pair of arms cross. They pout, turning to the opposite direction. You goofball! The silliest of them all! Ella flattens her hand, covering her mouth, briefly gasping. How brazen! Em turns their head towards Ella, tilting downward slightly. Brazen? Oh, you... They wag their finger back and forth with each syllable. You... Their foot raises to the height of their table. They lean the vast majority of their weight against its surface. They remark the same word with an affection matched by the intimacy of physical contact. You... Faith lifts her drawing in a vertical orientation, aiming its front towards M and Ella along with the teacher. I drew M. The portrait features flowers strewn across their hair, featuring a pair of closed eyes and an open mouth. Exterior, patio, late afternoon. A set of teeth bite into an apple. Flakes of its skin rip off as its juices leak from its insides. Faith passes the apple to M, who does the same, biting into the same spot as her. The two of them chew as Ella reaches for the apple from M. She studies its form and holds it up to the sun, blocking the vast majority of its whites and yellows with the bold reds of the fruit. M yawns and attempts to cover their mouth, letting the M yawns and attempts to cover their mouth, letting their fingers spread far apart along enough for her face to remain visible. Ella twists the forbidden part of the apple away from her. Her fire partially extinguishes upon the sound of swallowing filling the silence. Faith kneels, the two of them mimic the gesture and lean forward as a soft, hyper-feminine voice gives way to prayer. Dear God, she inhales, holds her breath for a moment, then exhales. We love you from within the depths of our souls. M smiles, and we have many questions for you. A tear runs down Faith's cheek. She continues to kneel motionlessly along the concrete floor. Today, as always, we have nothing to offer to you except the fruit of knowledge. Her head raises. We hope that this is enough to answer the question of the 4th of January of 2018. Her hands part. We thank you for your time, and we practice patience for your third arrival. A pair of hands, pink and dark alike, reach for one of hers respectively. Amen! Amen. Ella opens her eyes. Her flame sparks upon the mention of her name. Eleanor's father, beloved and helped dearly close to each of us three, recently passed away. The sky begins to show through dots in the clouds. We ask again, with as much sincerity as a question can hold, may we see him one last time. The apple ignites, succumbing to ashes in an instant. Ella looks up to the sight of an overcast sky parting, highlights cast upon her face as she opens her eyes.